The Florida Gators will be facing the Samford Bulldogs tomorrow, and here's what I'm looking for from DJ Lagway and his Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You can see the board behind me. We are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. I just bought more concert tickets today. Just saying. Florida Gators tomorrow will face the Samford Bulldogs. Last time Florida faced Samford, they won 52-70. A lot of points scored in that one. This time when they face Samford, it will be DJ Lagway's first career start. Obviously, that matters a ton. The depth chart came out on Wednesday, and we saw DJ Lagway starting quarterback, Clay Millen behind him, and redshirt freshman walk-on, I believe, Adrian Warner behind him. Possibility that you see all three of them play, actually. But that depth chart had a lot of things that popped out. First off, right guard and right tackle are still Damian George and Cameron Waits. Not ideal, obviously. That receivers, no Khalil Jackson. At end, no Joey Slackman. At star, no Sharif Denson. There's a lot of guys that are minorly banged up. But the big talking point was DJ Lagway getting his first career start with Graham Mertz out with a concussion. And I think there's a few things that we need to see, I guess, from this game for DJ Lagway. First off, I just want to see how comfortable he looks. Just how comfortable do you look playing quarterback for a college football team, right? Are you going to get panicky when things break down? Again, like I talked about it yesterday, in high school, DJ Lagway would have no problem extending plays with his legs and then looking for a pass or just straight up running and creating a play with his legs. Sure. But it's different even just doing it in high school compared to doing it in college. You're doing it against better athletes. You're doing it at a higher level of competition. So it's different everywhere. And you might not have as much room to run as you had in high school. So I'm curious to see how DJ Lagway handles any pressure that may get into him or may get into the backfield. I'm very interested and curious to see DJ Lagway pre-snap. I want to know, because I think for me, that's the main thing that I need to see with Lagway is arm talent is there. You look at the high school film and you can see it screams arm talent, right? You watch DJ Lagway's high school film at Willis, you're watching someone who, as a high schooler, is throwing from different arm slots. So he's side arming it, he's overarming, he's like throwing normal, he's working around everybody. He's doing that's a baseball thing. We know that. That's also a thing that basically every quarterback does now. Every young quarterback, like we're at the age where college freshmen grew up watching Patrick Mahomes. DJ Lagway was like 11 when Patrick Mahomes made his NFL debut. Like we're getting to the age where these college athletes grew up watching Patrick Mahomes, and every quarterback you look at now, we talked about this last year with Brandon Carroll, and we were talking about DJ Lagway and how just the arm slots, it's insane that he can do it. But now that's a thing that you're looking for. It's how every young basketball player now, everybody can shoot threes. They could shoot deep threes. And so much of that is watching Steph Curry do it and then being like, oh, we can use all the range that we can find. And you see Steph Curry do it, and then now there's a bunch of guys in the league that do it. Obviously not as well as Steph Curry, but Steph Curry kind of set that new, this is the elite level of play. And Patrick Mahomes has set the new, this is the elite level of play. And don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes didn't invent the throwing from different arm slots, right? Matthew Stafford was probably the first one that did it consistently and well. Aaron Rodgers has done it. A lot of guys have done it. But these kids grew up watching Patrick Mahomes do it. And the highlight plays, because Patrick Mahomes does it multiple times on a single drive, let alone just in a game. Whereas Matthew Stafford earlier in his career, it would pretty much just be, oh, we got a slant. I'm going to try to get around my line, around the rushers, whatever it may be, and he would throw from that angle. But Patrick Mahomes does it like it's fun, like it's part of the scheme to throw like that. So I'm interested to see just DJ Lagway throwing the football. We know, right? Again, if you watch high school film, if you've watched his high school film, you see that. If you've watched his high school film, you see he could throw that thing over them their mountains. He can let it sing. What I want to see against Samford is what he's going to be doing pre-snap. Is he going to be making any calls to the offensive line? Is he going to be making any adjustments? I want to know how much he's even looking at pre-snap, just watching his head movement. I want to see post-snap what he's going to be looking like. I'm curious if there's a coverage shift, how he handles it, if he gets panicky at all. It's just something that we need to see. And again, it's those things where they've got him in the metaphorical classroom, right? Like they've got him working on a whiteboard, iPad, whatever it is. They've got him working on those, but it's different to see these things when it's not actually unfolding in front of you. Like even if they put a GoPro on the helmet and you see everything and you watch it back, it's easier to process and watch that than it is to actually live in that moment. And so I'm very interested to see how DJ Lagway handles that, because the arm talent is not a question. Okay. The just physical tools and traits, not a question. You look at his frame, he looks like he's ready for the NFL draft. So you look at his frame, he's there. You look at the arm talent, he's there. It's about putting it together mentally. He's got to clean up some mechanics, but his mechanics have improved from high school. You look at his high school film, and then you look at the spring game, and his mechanics improved. He's gotten a quicker, tighter throwing motion. He's improving throughout time. Like we're watching this happen right in front of our very eyes. But I need to see exactly where we're going to be. And also, I want to know what the offense is going to look like. I think Russ Callaway will be calling the plays with DJ Lagway there. Again, I think Russ Callaway will be calling the plays with DJ Lagway in. I want to know what that's going to look like. Is Russ going to be looking for the deep shots? Is he going to be trying to just is it going to be a simple offense? Because you could also take the approach of, hey, we know it's Samford. We know we're more athletic. We might just forvert some stuff, or we might hide DJ completely. Just throw little screens, pop passes, run the ball, get out of there with a huge win. And then if he's got to start against Texas A&M, he's got to start against Texas A&M, and they're not going to have the film on him. So there's a few approaches you could take to it, because while I think that's a valid approach, by the way, of saying, hey, we're going to not just screens and pop passes and running the ball, but keep it really simple, really condensed playbook and really basic. And then you can say, hey, if he has to start against Texas A&M, they're not going to have film on him. However, you can also argue that maybe you should let him fly, let it throw it around, have the playbook as open as you possibly can, so you can see what you have in him, so that if he does have to play against Texas A&M, he's got more live reps available. Because again, we've talked about it before. Billy Napier said it before. When live bullets are flying, it's different. And that matters when we're talking about a true freshman quarterback making his first start of his college football career. The offensive line played horrible on Saturday last week. We are going to talk about that next on Locked On Gators. And I don't know if you guys use LinkedIn or not. I do. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. There is not another job board or job forum or job site that I'm on. It's LinkedIn, and that's it. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. I don't know a person that actively uses another job site. I genuinely can't tell you a single person. That's how dominant LinkedIn is. They're a monopoly. Post your job for free. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And I don't know if you can see this dope shirt that I'm wearing. Barely. The camera just barely. But It is a Home Field Apparel shirt. So if you are unaware of Home Field Apparel, incredibly dope company. These softest t-shirts that I own, just not even just sports t-shirts, just these softest t-shirts that I own. I love it. The fabric's amazing. I cannot get enough of them. I've got my orange 2-bit shirt. If you look for Florida gear, by the way, Florida, when they launched the Florida section, it broke records for the highest grossing school on home field. Like, they shattered records. There's over 180 colleges that you can choose from. They just added Pepperdine, which for some friends that are also on the host, I don't know if they want to know where they went to college. But some other hosts on the network went to Pepperdine. I texted him and he's like, oh, I'm on it right now. I order from Home Field every year, get myself a few shirts. I got some Toledo shirts in there as well. And a tattoo on my arm. So that's what we're doing there. But you can go to homefieldapparel.com and you can use promo code Gator24 to save some money when you purchase with homefieldapparel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, representing the podcast and on YouTube. And so the offensive line played horrible on Saturday, right? Austin Barber played well. Jake Slaughter played well. Najee Harris played average. Damian George played average. And Cameron Waits played terrible. I've been very hard on Cameron Waits and Damian George, and I'm not letting it go. I promise you I won't. I know that there's some fans that are like, oh, you're being too hard on the kids for making a mistake. They're not kids at this point. They are 4th and 5th year players. Okay, so there's that. And also, I will say this. Effort is not a mistake, right? Effort is lazy. It's not a mistake to not make an effort. So I'll throw that in. Austin Barber is going to see more snaps at left tackle reportedly. Not that I doubt it, but it's just, Florida is theoretically going to win this game by a lot of points, hopefully. And so hopefully Austin Barber won't need to play a lot, and hopefully Devin Manuel and even Fletcher Westphal will get reps. But after rotating every 3rd, 6th, and 9th series with Devin Manuel, Billy Napier said, hey, Austin Barber is going to be the guy at left tackle. Rightfully so. He played a great game. Left guard is going to be Najee Harris or Bryce Lovett or Rod Kearney as the 3rd string there. We will see both of them, or all 3 of them. We will see both Najee Harris and Bryce Lovett, I'm certain, at left guard. Rod Kearney could play either guard spot or center, but I'm very confident that he's going to play as well. Jake Slaughter playing at center, obviously starting center. Rod Kearney behind him. Jason Zandamela, true freshman interior offensive lineman. If you're going to see Jason Zandamela at all this year, I would expect it to be this game. Jake Slaughter was the only offensive lineman last week that played every single snap. So there's that. Jake Slaughter was the only player to play center last week, only offensive lineman to play every single snap. Damian George or Cameron Waits at right guard. I've said before, I don't want either of them to touch the field ever again. I don't think they deserve to don that logo. That interception, no effort whatsoever, inexcusable. I understand that it's hot and they had played quite a bit. It's effort. You put it in. And even if it doesn't look pretty, even if it doesn't work out, at least you could say, you know what? No matter what happened, I tried my best. They can't. Christian Williams listed as the 3rd right guard. He was on the left guard depth chart last week against Miami, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Najee Harris and then Rod Kearney or Christian Williams. And then I think right guard was Damian George, Christian Williams, and Bryce Lovett, or Cam Waits was the 3rd right guard in there. Not that there's much to do with that, but that's what we're looking at. Right tackle is Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon or Cameron Waits, and then Caden Jones is the 3rd right tackle. I'm expecting to see all 3 of those right tackles play. I think you have to. You've got to at least see what you got and see if it's worth making a full-time switch there. What I want to see from them, last week they played poorly. Okay? Last year they played poorly, but last year this is an offensive line, obviously different guys, But it's an offensive line that couldn't move Charlotte consistently. So I'm pretty interested to see how it goes with Samford. Keep in mind, Samford is FCS. Charlotte is FBS. It's just group of 5. So Charlotte is a better team. But I'm just curious to see what that's going to look like as in the trenches, I guess, there. I also want to see what the run game looks like. Because that's something that we talked about quite a bit this week is Florida and all offseason. I spent the entire offseason going, hey, I think Florida should go with more gap-based run game. I think they should. When they hired Jonathan DeCoster, I said, hey, I think they're going to go more gap-based run game. Hiring Jonathan DeCoster, the Browns were the most gap-based run game heavy team in the entire NFL last season. He was working with them. Would not shock me if we saw more gap-based run game from the Florida Gators. We did. Counter got broken out quite a few times last week. Didn't really break anything last year. We saw counter quite a bit, or once or twice a game. But just in the grand scheme of things, we saw it. And this year, I think we'll see it more. I think that it's one of those higher ceiling plays for this team specifically. And pin pull, we saw last week was the first time Billy Napier's offense has ever called pin pull. This is 71-yard rushing touchdown to Montreal Johnson. What the pin pull is, I'm not going to go reach for the whiteboard right now. But what the pin pull is that the tight end on the edge pins the edge rusher down to the interior of the line. The offensive tackle there handles the defensive tackle. And then your center and guard on that side pull across. You could also do both guards. There's variations to pin pull. Oregon used to run it a lot. Ohio State runs it a lot. It's a very common run concept. Chip Kelly spammed it. Mark Halford ran it a lot too at Oregon. But that pin pull run game, it's explosive. It's effective. I do think the Florida, again, can do it. Like if you run it, especially if Damian George is going to be out there, if you run it to his side where he gets to pull and just hammer down the linebacker around the corner, whatever it is, sneak up on him and get him. And then you could have Jake Slaughter or whoever is at the other guard spot pulling around. There's a lot you can do with it. I want to see this run game go more gap scheme. We saw duo Hayden Hansen on Wednesday when he was here to talk about the game and the Florida Gators. By the way, hell of an interview on Wednesday. But we talked about his favorite scheme to block, and it was duo. And duo is just, it's a bunch of double teams throughout, basically. And he was like, yeah, you can run it against any front. It's fun. And I told the story, I've been covering the Giants in person, and Eric Gray and Joshua Kelly both told me, they're the only 2 running backs I've spoken to one-on-one. They both told me that duo is their favorite run game, run scheme to work with as a running back. And now we've got Hayden saying it as a tight end. The Rams ran it more than anybody else in the entire NFL last year. Duo is taking over football, and it's a beautiful thing. A lot of options to run it from, running against any front. It's fun to see, but offensive line, I need to see more gap game. I need to see you actually dominate, because last year that was my big issue against Charlotte, was that you should have been able to score touchdown after touchdown, just run and dive if you wanted to. And instead you settled for a bunch of field goals. It was embarrassing. Need to see that offensive line perform better. And the defensive side of the ball also struggled quite a bit. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Gators. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Literally thousands. I mentioned earlier, I said I just got new concert tickets. This year has been just incredible for me concert-wise. I don't know. I haven't been to a concert in years. And then this year, I went to go see, it was Anita in early June. I went to go see Anita. 4th of July weekend, I went to see Shabuzi. Late July, I went to go see That Mexican OT. And then at the end of October, also I bought my tickets for the Miami at Florida game on Game Time. They are 0-2 or 1-2 in tickets that I bought on Game Time. And at the end of October, I'm going to go see Swaco perform live as well. Great year for me for concerts. I'm just saying, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. And I need to see more from the Florida Gators defense this week. Obviously, we expect this defense to dominate Samford. We'll see if we actually get that. I can't even chalk it because just 3 years ago, Dan Mullen's final season, we watched Samford put up 52 points in the Swamp. Yep, the same head coach there, by the way. I'll bite my tongue until they actually play. But we've been told that since last week, or during last week, during the game against Miami, we've been told that there were too many defensive communication breakdowns. And when you watch the game, you can kind of see where some of them happen. You can see, I forgot who it was that scored a touchdown, but Jordan Castell falls on the ground. And he kind of like looks behind him as if he was expecting someone there. And we saw a couple of times where there'd be a corner looking kind of around, or there'd be a linebacker looking around a little bit. And it kind of looked like multiple times. I know I keep saying kind of, get over it. It looked like multiple times there were players looking around as if they were kind of confused to how things were supposed to be happening, or where someone was supposed to be. And I mean, Hayden on Wednesday, he wasn't talking about the defense in specific. He was talking about just the team. But he was like, it felt like every play, one person would screw up at one point. Every play that was happening. And I feel like part of that has to be communication. I will also say this. Compared to last year, the season opener against Utah, I feel like we saw a lot less defensive communication in this game. And maybe it's just less emphatic communication. Maybe it's just less noticeable communication. Maybe it's less physical and more verbal communication. But last year, we would watch Scooby Williams. And I say Scooby because he was the Mike linebacker. The Mike linebacker is going to be the green dot player. He's going to be a play caller always in this defense. That's why Shamar doesn't have the microphone or the headset for the defensive coordinator. It's Pop Howard. But last year we'd see Scooby. Scooby was like rubbing his stomach, and Scooby was throwing up hove, and like there were a whole bunch of things going. And we could see that basically every play. There was constant communication. They were bad, and their players were worse last year than this year. But there was more communication that was visible. You watch the Miami game, and there's not nearly as much noticeable communication. And that could be due to multiple things. That could be due to they only needed that communication in terms of, obviously, you don't have to communicate every single time when you see the look that you're looking at. If nothing changes and you've already got your call, you might not need to see anything change. You might not need to make a call. So it could just be that, hey, they were calling things that they were calling coverages or defensive plays that were just, hey, regardless of what that team does, we're doing this. Regardless of how they come out, regardless of what look they're coming out in, we're doing this. Could be that. Could be. But I just watched that defense give up 11 plays of 20-plus yards, which is the most that any school that's only played one game has given up this year. Third worst in the entire country, and the only two teams to give up more played 2 games when Florida played 1. So we've seen too many defensive breakdowns. Too often plays broke down. Just not even just communication breakdown, just physically, they broke down. And I understand that it's hard to play in coverage for so long, but it would be, Cam Ward scrambles around and there's no one within 10, 15 yards of him. And I don't know what the hell is going on there. Like there were defensive breakdowns like that where no one is in any area. There were defensive breakdowns where I forgot who even posted the play. I forgot what the play was. But Derek Wingo and Shamar James are the linebackers. Shamar James is the inside linebacker there, as in the one closer to the middle of the field or closer to the middle of the offensive line. Derek Wingo is on the wide side. They run it toward there. Derek Wingo fires down toward the middle-ish, and Shamar James collides with him. First off, I will say this. I have a hard time believing that Shamar screwed that up. Because to me, it just doesn't make much sense. That feels like that should have been Wingo going to the attack to attack the wide side and contain, because the defensive line slanted in. So I feel like it should have been Wingo going to contain, Shamar going to fill the other lane, but Wingo closed in too tight. Shamar went to that same spot, which was Shamar's spot, and then everything just broke down. And I will especially say that considering Derek Wingo is a 5th or 6th year player, Shamar James is a 3rd year player, and they've both spent their entire college careers in Gainesville, those communication breakdowns shouldn't be happening. Those miscues shouldn't be happening. At this point in the game, those shouldn't be happening. Like, you should be better than that. You brought in Ron Roberts. He's a very experienced defensive coordinator, 30-plus years of coaching experience, was a head coach at Delta State for, I think, a decade. He's very experienced as a coach. And their defense crumbled. Every opportunity it was given to crumble. Things like that can no longer happen. It happened against Miami. You gave up 41 points. It cannot happen against Samford. It cannot happen against Texas A&M. It cannot happen against Mississippi State. If you still have a job, it cannot happen against UCF. It cannot happen against Kentucky. It cannot happen against Tennessee. Those games are flipped. If you still have a job, it cannot happen against Georgia. It cannot happen against Texas. It cannot happen against LSU. It cannot happen against Ole Miss. It cannot happen against Florida State. Cannot. At this point, it is no longer a youth issue. It is a coaching issue. Because the youth that was last year and the year before, those are gone. Not that they're gone, but the youth excuse is gone. These guys are mostly experienced at this point. This is a more senior team. We'll see what happens with more younger guys playing this week due to injuries, but those miscues can no longer happen. I don't know if Billy Napier even has a chance to keep his job anymore at this point. But if you want to keep your job, those miscues cannot happen. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever the podcast and on YouTube. We will be going live tomorrow after Florida, presumably, beats Samford. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon, and I will see you all tomorrow.